fantasy league. We got that blue and orange blood that you bleed. The most loyal fans there ever could be. We are that Mile High Broncos country.
The Denver Broncos select
Orange Weekly, fans, brews, and Broncos news. Hello again, Broncos country, and welcome to the first ever Bourbon, Broncos, and No BS playoff podcast show. Guys, we are so glad to be here tonight. Super excited because as long as we've been doing this for 9 seasons, this show has always been, well, on to next year. And that is not the case tonight, guys. So make sure you hit that share button. Make sure you hit the like button. If you haven't already, go ahead and pour yourself a glass of the 5280 Broncos blend by Breckenridge Distillery. That's what we're going to be drinking tonight. Celebrating as the Broncos are heading into Buffalo for a preseason or for a postseason game. I'm just not used to saying it. And a little bit of poetry here. The first time the Broncos are back in the playoffs, we're going to be facing the Super Bowl 50 MVP, Von Miller. And it is going to be just a little bit of irony there. And we're going to break it all down for you guys. So let's get ready for it. We're going to do some initial thoughts, guys, starting with you, Jared, man. How you feeling and what you thinking?
Well, I'm feeling much better today than I did yesterday. We talked about it a little bit before we started, but I'm going to bring it up. I was a little hungover, let's say, on Monday morning, and so I'm ready to start this off. But I got myself a little ice cube, a little football ice cube. I got some Breckenridge bourbon. I'm ready to go for this playoff, man. Like I am stoked for this show, and I can't wait to talk about what's going to happen at the Bills game.
It's going to be a fun conversation. David, sir, what you got?
It's such a strange feeling to be back here, and it feels like, doesn't it feel completely different than when the Broncos would make the playoffs every year with Peyton Manning? At a certain point, that kind of just felt like automatic, and it's like, all right, now the real season begins, and there's a little bit of magic that gets lost in that, to be honest with you. And having to earn it the hard way, having to go through this season and watching it unfold the way it did, knowing that everybody outside was telling us it wasn't going to be this way. It brings a little something extra to it. And it's so exciting.
Super exciting. Spotting, you've only been here for 2 years, man, but you're just excited as the rest of us, dude. What you got?
I mean, who can't? There's no one out in Broncos country right now that isn't super excited about where the Broncos are at right now, especially with what the expectation was for the year. I mean, if we're going to go just on expectation alone, then every fan in Broncos country, this might as well be just like the Super Bowl. And I definitely drank like it was us going to the Super Bowl on Sunday night. So, quite honestly, we're back where we always should be. That's as being a Broncos fan, we may be a little lucky in the fact that we're not the organizations like the Jets and the Jaguars and the Browns and etc. But so it feels natural and it feels good.
That's great, guys. Look, there's going to be a lot of conversation, and I'm also looking forward to your guys' playoff pregame podcast coming out later this week. So guys, make sure you are subscribing to us everywhere on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. But before we go into this upcoming game, I want to look back and just let's show some of the clips I have from this last week's game. Man, tailgating was awesome. Dude, those throwback jerseys. I mean, we're never going to get all of those throwback jerseys, man. But I tell you what, the crowd was electrified. In all honesty, I do not remember Mile High being that loud, except for in the 2015 season when we played the Bengals there near the end of the season. So we even had some dogs stop by saying hi, right? And Crush doing her thing there. But guys, this was a great time. Everybody was stoked from the time they got there all the way through the game. And then as the Chiefs fan there said, why do you need a 12th man when you got 17 on the field? But guys, I'll have this video up later if you want to watch the full thing. So make sure you check that out. It'll be up on YouTube tomorrow. Guys, so let's see. We could talk about the Chiefs game and 38-0 blowout. I don't think nobody expected that score. So for everybody who was following, we're doing the jersey giveaway in the score prediction challenge as part of our tailgate talk show 1 hour before kickoff. I was looking back through the score predictions and nobody
said 38-0.
Nobody said goose egg. Nobody said goose egg.
I think Jerry did have one of the highest with like 31 points for
I said 38. I did, but it was nobody had 0.
Yeah. So this was great, guys. But so what are your take just as we look back? Rob, hopefully your thumb keeps feeling better here soon. But what are some of your takes in terms of just like what you're looking back on the season? What are some of your biggest takeaways that go all the way up through that last Chiefs game there?
Are we staying positive or can we go negative?
Dude, we're in the playoffs. We are in the playoffs. We can go as positive as we want, but if you want to bring up a negative, we're realistic here. This is the No BS show.
I'm going to do it because it's going to come up regardless, and you guys are going to give me crap for it. But I look back on this offense and how much faith – it's going to start positive. Trust me, I'm getting there. How much faith Sean Payton had in our rookie quarterback from the start. I think his second game, he threw 40-something passes. And significantly throwing over and over and over again. I think he was over 30 for most of it. I mean, he only threw 29, but he was 26 for 29 in this last game. He couldn't be stopped. But and the fact that we just can't run the football, no matter who it is back there, we just can't seem to get the run game going. That's the one part that I look back on this season's like, man, that's kind of rough. We couldn't get that going, but Bo did what he needed to do as a quarterback. If we can get a good combo of those two, this offense is going to be unstoppable.
Agreed. David, Spotty?
Well, I mean, if we're going to just do a review for this year, I want to bring up our expectation. I mean, first thing I'll say is that I did not expect our defense to be as good as it is and has been. Well, I mean, mostly in the first 12 weeks, but even doing the right things over the last couple of weeks. We know when you don't have the right guys, the right healthy players, it's hard to maintain the trajectory that they were on. So the fact that they still ended the year, 5th when it comes to scoring defense. And of course, I want to plug it again, 63 sacks on the season, which is going to be a Broncos franchise record without a premier Von Miller, without any top guy who's the one who's got 17, 18 sacks to take on that. So I think somebody even mentioned it when I was watching some YouTube videos. 15 players have a sack for the Broncos.
Yeah,
that's incredible. Yeah. That is incredible. I brought it up probably a couple of weeks ago. That's something that Jared and David and I had talked about. Is the Philadelphia Eagles version of sacks, where we had 10. A couple of guys that have double digits. Didn't end up being a couple in double digits, but still, that's success with every player that's on the field. So, and then honestly, it's not like our offense was incredibly better than it was last year when it comes down to the flat numbers, but we know when it comes to something like that, there's only up to go, especially with adding the right people and the, potential free agents, more rookies. George Payton out there, if you're going to be adding any more people to this team like you have over the last 3 years, I think we're going to be in a really good place.
Yeah, for sure. And for me, looking back over the season, I guess the best summary I can give is looking a little bit ahead. And just that means, by that, I mean our coaching staff is getting interest from other teams. You've got Vance Joseph getting looked at for head coaching positions around the league. You've got David Shaw, one of our front office guys, being looked at as a possible candidate. And even if they don't get those jobs, it tells me there are teams out there who at least want to know a little bit more about how the Broncos succeeded this year. And that's really fascinating to me and a really good sign of where, and I think Sean Payton said this the other day, what matters to me is how my peers see me. And that, it's really kind of an indication that everybody else in the NFL is looking at the Broncos and saying, you guys are doing something right, and we want to know what it is.
I like it. One thing that I keep going back to is just what we were saying at the beginning of the season. We all said win-loss record does not matter. And as Sean said here, never would have guessed 10 wins. David, you were pretty accurate. I heard you guys talking, I think you were saying 8 wins on the season. Probably the most accurate out of us. And that's just phenomenal. But we go back to what was our question going into the season? Is Bo Nix our quarterback? He's exceeded that, because not only do we know he's our quarterback, I'm claiming him publicly like he is my quarterback. I am proud of him. The way he ran around the field, high-fiving those fans after the game. Just things like that, where it's like it shows how in tune he is with the fan base and how much he really cares more than just making dollars and winning a couple games, right? That's my QB. And we haven't been able to say that since Peyton Manning, where we could just publicly say, like, this is my guy. This is the guy that I'm fully behind.
And I do want to say something about a narrative that came up about Bo Nix a lot. And that was, everybody's heard it, the 61 college starts, right? And I think that's illustrative of some things and a little bit of a misleading statistic in other ways. I think it's a misleading statistic to say that Bo Nix started 61 games in college, so we know what his NFL ceiling is because he's played so much football. When the analyst who wants to sound like the smartest guy in the room will always tell you that the college football and the NFL are two totally different games anyway. But what I do think you can say is instructive about Bo Nix's 61 college starts is that he did get to see those high and low moments. Right? He did get to experience those on SEC stages and Big 12s or Pac-12 stages or whatever. He had to go through the pressure of being like this legacy kid who didn't live up to what Auburn thought he was going to be and then rebuild himself. He had to hit rock bottom and build himself back up. And so there's times going through this season where it's like, all right, Bo Nix has thrown 5 interceptions in the last 2 games. And we need 1 win to get into the playoffs. How are we going to handle this? How's he going to handle this? How's he going to handle a moment in week 18 where the Broncos are in the opposite position they're going in against the Bills, where they had all the pressure on them to go out there and compete because Kansas City was resting their starters, because they had nothing to play for and they were playing for house money. It speaks to a young man who is knowledgeable of how to navigate those moments and come out the other side.
Yeah, I think a big part of that too is
Roy.
With Bo Nix. So after Manning, there was the pressure of who's going to be the guy that succeeds, a future Hall of Famer, right? And then you have this just drought of quarterback carousel memes and all these other things of all these. And now you have the pressure coming in, like, who's going to be the guy to save our franchise? A historical franchise, a franchise that's used to getting in the playoffs and used to winning, and this downtime has been really off for us. It's probably one of the longest streaks. And can he be that guy? Can he have that pressure to be that guy? And he did it in his rookie season. It's not like he came. If he did come out here and say we got 7-8 wins, we missed the playoffs, we're still probably having this conversation. Bo looked good enough to be our guy going forward. But he has so far exceeded the expectations of, in his rookie year, bringing us to the playoffs and ending a 9-year drought is just absolutely fantastic for him. And the pressure that he had to hold on to get there and to be there just shows his character.
I think there's a point that we have to realize that draft analysis, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors when it comes to it, right? Just, yes, some of these draft analysts, they watch more college football, they've seen more college players, but all these people who have been doing it for a long time still said that Bo couldn't throw the ball and that he lacked athleticism. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you 2 things that Bo's proven to Broncos country is that he does not lack athleticism, and he sure as hell can throw that football, okay? I mean, we can say it all the time, all that we want. He's got the longest or the longest throw through the air for the year, All right. So that by itself kind of proved that maybe even I was like, I don't know, man, Bo, it's, the fifth or sixth, quarterback there. Is he going to be the real guy? But you know what? That just shows that there are things that Sean or other front office people can see, and they can tell everybody else, well, you're wrong. Because Sean was eaten up about, like, people were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he picked Bo Nix.
Yeah.
What? Broncos are going to finish. They got the 29th, 30th best roster.
But to your point, Spotty, he told him already. He said back, I think before the draft even, he said there are some people who do this, and he meant evaluating quarterbacks specifically in the draft. And his full quote was, there are people who are really bad at this, and we're really good at this, and that's the way it is. And I'm not paraphrasing all that much, to be honest with you. And now I think he gets to go out there and take his own victory lap a little bit on this, at least.
Exactly.
Yep.
Look, we could keep spending the rest of the time just talking about Bo Nix and breaking down his stats and everything, but Bo Nix has a whole team around him. And it starts right here. Players like Vele. Team puff ball facts.
Yeah, I had to give some pop to the team puff ball, but yes, back to Devon Vele.
But Vele, he's a big name, right? And a guy that I fully expect to become more and more involved as we see, the next couple of years progress. This is a guy that is just constantly consistent. You get him the ball, and even when you don't throw him the ball, he's going to be there in case it gets tipped so he can catch it, right? I mean, he is looking great. I am super excited to have him on the team because I think he's just going to get more involved. And once we really get that connection going, it's going to leak even better. And then, like Dustin says here, Bowles, Cortland Sutton, these two guys have been with the team forever and are finally getting a taste of the playoffs. It is so good to see both everyone from the rookies all the way up to these vets finally getting to be able to punch their ticket and go show the NFL what they're made of. And if you're telling me right now that the Broncos are going to lay an egg on Sunday, I don't believe it. This team, except for the exception of the Ravens game, has fought in every single game. Our victories, I went back, I think there was only one win we had. That was a 1-score game. All of our other wins were 2-score wins or better. And then you're looking at our losses, and they're pretty much all those 1-score losses. So we have been in every single game this year. And I don't think this game is going to be any exception to that. So, guys, it's really cool to see that this team, while maybe doesn't have a big name leader that has a big voice in the locker room or anything, they know how to play for each other. And it's, I can say that a million times, but it's so true. And they're dogs, and they have grit and they have determination. And that's dangerous when you're getting the place. I can't remember who was saying it, but they're like, guys, you let Bo Nix into the show. You just let Bo Nix and Sean Payton into the show. Like, do you realize what you just did? Everyone's going, oh yeah, Kansas City just didn't want to have to deal with Cincinnati. Yeah, but the Bills, these other teams, they still got to deal with us.
Sean McDermott is 5-5 in the playoffs with Josh Allen and has never made the Super Bowl. Sean Payton has. And Sean Payton coached against Sean McDermott a bunch when he was a Carolina Panthers coach.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said about that. I mean, we are a young team, and regardless of how this game ends on Sunday, it is what it is. We're a young team, and we have a lot to grow. But I think the stat that they pulled up, and again, I think I mentioned this at the end of the game, the stat that they pulled up that we're 1-6 in close games only shows that we just have a young team. Like they pulled that up as a negative. I took that as a positive. You're saying of our 5 losses, 5 of our 7 losses were 1-score games. Yeah. And you're saying that like we were 1-6 in those games. And again, you could look back on the what ifs all day, the blocked field goals, the penalties that hurt us on some games, right? The Chargers game, I'm thinking, and there's all these things in the middle, but that just means that we're a young team that we have a lot of growing to do. And we're growing in a place where right now we're in the playoffs. And if we're still here, we're still a threat, regardless of 8.5 points right now for the Bills is what they're giving them. It is unreal, the disrespect that I think some people are giving the Broncos going into this game, thinking the Bills are just going to run all over us in their field.
Well, that's the only way they can save face is if the Broncos go 1-out, the national media, they're going to say, oh, we were right. We told you they shouldn't have been there to begin with. But it doesn't matter if we lose by a point. They're going to use that as their, yep, see, we told you guys this was a foregone conclusion, right? So, it's good that we beat the Bills last year because we show that we can do it with less, as Keith says here. But also, while everybody is kind of just taking us for granted and just saying, no, you're not a real team, I don't think that the Buffalo Bills themselves are looking at it the same way. I think they're looking at this going, oh, they got us last year, But if you have that coaching advantage, man, that is huge when you're in this kind of position.
How about pressure? How about the advantage in the game for the Broncos is pressure? And I mean that specifically that if you had to look at the Buffalo Bills and their franchise and their trajectory over from the last 6-7 years, they've got a lot of pressure to make the playoffs, to make a deep run, to go to play the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, to get to the Super Bowl. You guys have a perennial all-star at quarterback. If you fail now, what does that really mean for your franchise? And what do the Broncos got? Well, we were at 5. Vegas told us that we were going to win 5.5 games. Okay,
Yep.
Just like someone said in the comments earlier, the Broncos are playing with house money. Okay, so there's not a lot of pressure on the Broncos. Whether we lose by 20 or we lose by 3, everybody's going to say something like, "Well, the Bengals would have been a more interesting matchup." Well, to them, you know what? Next year, the NFL will set something up to even the playing field so the Bengals can get in. We'll call it wins and losses.
Weird how that works.
Yeah, something. Yeah, almost as if they had done it this year, they could have been in the playoffs anyway. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, so I'll bring up the comment. I'm not sure if you guys saw Von Miller's post.
Oh yeah, love it.
On Instagram, it just says full circle. That's all it says. Post himself in the old Broncos uniform, coming full circle. He's always had love for the Broncos. No matter where he's gone, he's shot it back to us and said, he's rooting for us. So it's gonna be interesting seeing him out there. Obviously it's gonna be a fun game to watch. I do think this game is close. I do not think the Bills just beat up on us. Yeah. Like I just don't see it based on the way we've been playing all year. There's no way if this game comes down to anything, it's going to come down to a 1 score, and it's going to be who has the ball and who can capitalize on the big time and the big game. I think that's really what's going to come down to this game.
Look, if we can contain the Bengals at their home stadium, you can't tell me that the Bills are going to go out there and demolish us in a way that the Bengals offense couldn't do. That just doesn't make sense. What?
They don't have a T. Higgins and a Jamar Chase.
They don't have a T. Higgins.
I'm sorry. I understand, but Keon Coleman and Shakir, whatever, and friggin' Amari Cooper, who the Broncos have done well against over all these years.
Plenty of times.
Really scare me. There's one man on that team that I'm like, this man needs to be stopped. One man, Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
here. Yep.
Yeah, but to Josh Allen's credit, the reason that you guys are saying that supporting cast isn't full of weapons, and I think you're right, especially not the caliber that the Bengals can trot out there on a down-to-down basis. But Josh Allen, the reason that they have been so successful, despite the fact that they didn't have Stephon Diggs this year, and they really did kind of take a step back at that in some of those skill positions, maybe a small one, but is because Josh Allen stopped turning the ball over and stopped taking sacks. He took 14 sacks this year. He cut his turnovers way down, and that is why the Buffalo Bills were able to just kind of walk through some teams this year. So that's going to be kind of the strength on strength question this game. Can the Denver pass rush get home against a guy who hasn't taken sacks, and not only hasn't taken sacks, but if you get 1 yard too far upfield on Josh Allen, he's gone before you think about it. He's 25 yards up the field, and your defensive back is now trying to bring him down, and he might not have the muscle to do that. So it's going to be that Vance Joseph last year kind of cooked up this plan against Josh Allen where he rushed guys from different areas and kind of mixed it up, but he didn't rush, he didn't blitz Josh Allen. He really did drop guys into coverage and just kind of kept him guessing as to where the pressure was going to come from next instead. I really, really hope that that's kind of a similar game plan they go with this week.
Look, Sean is right, though, guys. As many weapons as the Bills have, they do not have a Mitch Fabroney. Okay,
Right.
so
There's Sean.
if you're looking for another advantage, okay, I'm going to take our long snapper every single day. Sean, I appreciate you, buddy. Yeah. Look, guys,
man.
it's gonna be a good game, like you're saying, and it's so cool to sit here, because I think about it earlier, in terms of like when we had Peyton Manning and we got the playoffs, that was the expectation, right? And that's when our season really began. And when we didn't make it to the Super Bowl, the 2 out of the 4 years with Manning, it was heartbreaking because it was like, this is our window. We need to get this guy a trophy. Like this is really upsetting. And the games were super stressful, but here we are playing with house money. Like these guys are just going to get so much good experience and just feel the reward that comes with buying into a system, fighting for each other, playing through these tough games, bouncing back from adversity, starting 0-2 and then working their way back up, losing to the Chiefs the way they did, and then going on a 4-game win streak. They know how to keep the fight up. So there's just so many things to unpack here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, it's almost like a surreal feeling to be here because we are again we're on the upward of the J curve. Where if you look at the rest of these, I know you, David. I stole it from you when I cheated off you in 8th grade math. That's how I learned this. When I copied your homework in 8th grade math.
The phrase J curve just makes me. I don't know. It sounds dirty. I'm sorry.
But we're on the way up. If you look at all the rest of the AFC teams, they're in their window, and or the only other one I could think of is maybe the Commanders. Right, the Commanders are also in kind of a little bit of a rebuild, kind of working their way up, so they have that. But we're on the upswing right now, and we have a lot to build on, and there's so much better that we can get, and we're here, and it's not. Again, some national heads are talking like that the Bills are just going to beat the socks off us, and I just don't see it. Imagine if we go out there and we take a win out of here, which I can absolutely see. We go out there and take a win, then all the national heads will be like, it was playoffs, and it's going to be. I guarantee you, if we win, it's going to be the Bills sucked, not the Broncos are good.
The dildos would be flying.
The Bills didn't do what they needed to do. They didn't do what they need to do. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know how that became a thing in Buffalo. I really don't. But
I don't either.
It's a thing.
They don't have much to do. Yeah.
No, it's cold. And
hey,
yeah.
Look, when it comes to playoff games, okay, it is one game. Okay, it is a singular game. And when if you get in, you have a chance to win, right? And that's the thing that every Broncos fan should look out for. And let's be honest. I'll be really honest with you. If the Broncos lose the game, am I going to lose my ish? I'll probably be a little sad about it. Be like, damn, like this was a good year. And like, this is how it ends. But then I'm like, damn, I'm really excited for next year. Like, look at all these players that we were talking about. We're talking about the Vele's and the Mims and the Nick Benitos. I'm going to throw in the Riley Mosses, and of course, Bo Nix more than anything, that I'm excited to see what they can do in this next year, what they can do in the playoffs, okay? Because we've seen when you give these young guys experience early, they're going to carry that with them through the rest of their career, man. So I'm really excited to see what that next level is for every single one of them.
We're talking a lot about what the Broncos can do to rattle Allen out there, Josh Allen. But right here, what is the plan to stop Bo Nix? He definitely highlighted his speed this week when he was a couple of those rushes, right? And so I think that's a big thing that you really got to worry about, because if you let Bo Nix start running, man, he can be gone 20, 30 plus yards down the field in the blink of an eye. But, it's one of those things like, can you rattle Bo Nix? He's been in so many of these situations, right? So if you're the Buffalo Bills and you're looking at this seriously, like, what are your concerns with the Broncos and how do you overcome that?
They're middle of the pack when it comes to sacks. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You were talking, and I was distracted because I was looking through the stats that I've got pulled up on the computer. They're middle of the pack when it comes to stats. They're also middle of the pack when it comes to turnover. But of course, with Josh Allen not turning the ball over as much as he has in years past, their turnover ratio is much greater, which is having an effect on games. Like, I get the Bills defense is one of those more or less X factors for this particular game, because I think that we can stay in the game because of how porous they have been for half the year. They've got a lot of injuries. But Sean McDermott, of course, is a defensive minded coach, and we know guys like him and Spagnuolo, they always change it up or they plan for something different when it comes to the playoffs. But still at the same time, it's not like teams haven't been getting what they want. And then I believe the last statement, of course, and this is going to affect Jared the most, the Buffalo Bills are one of the worst rush defenses out there. But of course, that doesn't necessarily affect the Broncos.
Well, now I'll say this about first, because Spotty, I think that Buffalo pass rush really has kind of come on at the end of the season, especially our old friend Von Miller, who has actually kind of been a little bit of his old self to end this season in ways that he hasn't been in years. And so there feels like a little bit of a poetic justice bomb waiting to happen to us on that one. But I will say, like you said, Spotty, the Bills have not a good rushing defense, and the Broncos, I feel like, really have discovered something with inside runs, even with Jaleel McLaughlin. Every time it feels like they're trying to stretch one outside, it feels like an absolute disaster, but it feels like they're consistently able to generate behind Ben Powers and Quinn Miners, and even Luke Wattenberg in the run when they try those holes. And it doesn't matter which back, but I feel like Jaleel's the most explosive one who's been able to take advantage of that, and it's really just surprising considering the kind of back he is. We've talked about the Broncos run game being a little bit of a disappointment, but it does feel like in the last few weeks of the season, they've found something maybe there that they can exploit against this Bills defense specifically.
Yeah. So, okay, let me jump in. I got to talk about that run game. So I do think that the stats are underwhelming for the run game of the Denver Broncos, but you're right. Even and if you look at all the games, I think there was maybe 1 or 2 games that we were held to like literally nothing. But for the most part, we're getting consistently 3 to 4 yards per carry. And that's what you want from your backs to keep the drive alive. And then we're trusting we have to mix it up with the run. We just don't have that explosive run game that's going to get you your 40-yard, 50-yard touchdowns on a run. But we have this consistent, we're going to get 4 to 5 yards if we hand it off. And that's the one thing that we can kind of hang our hat on. Sometimes we get 10, sometimes we get 2, but for the most part, we're getting about 4 to 5. And at a lot of games, we're getting 6 yards per carry. We don't have anybody over 100 because we just don't have the big top speed at the end of it, or someone's catching us, the safety or linebackers getting us after 5 or 6 yards, which is fine. And I think that plays into what Sean Payton does. We control the ball, we drive the ball, we control the time of possession, all those things. So while yes, it's a disappointment that we're not having 100-yard rushers, I do think that no matter who's back there, they're getting 4 to 5 yards per time they touch the ball, especially up the middle. And then you obviously see the resurgence of Marvin Mims. And when we're doing the outside runs, you just see we're just giving it to him. Like we're giving it to him on the as lined up as a running back. We're giving it to him in the jet sweeps. You were trying to get him to the outside because he's got that speed, and we want that one-on-one with him and a linebacker versus one of our running backs and linebacker.
Yeah. Hey guys, go for it.
Hold on, I'm not saying it's the same, okay, but the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs are more notorious to do quarterback spies. And the moments that they've done that the most, of course, were anytime that they had to play Lamar Jackson. I'm not saying that Bo is Lamar Jackson when it comes to athleticism, but he's proven enough that if you're not paying attention to him, that he will take it away from you, and hopefully that he won't toss the ball forward when making those hard plays. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw quarterback spy, which Bo's actually kind of struggled with this year. So we'll get to that on the pregame podcast.
Nice little hook there. Hey guys, it is halftime. Bourbon Broncos, no BS. So grab your Uncrustables, fill up your drink, and let me get through some of these announcements before we get to more of these questions and comments, guys. First off, again, welcome to the first ever postseason edition of the show here. It's been a long time coming. We are super glad to be here with all of you guys. We're going to continue our tradition of thanking you guys, our fans, with our fan appreciation episode that'll be coming out later this month. We're waiting to announce what date exactly based off of, you never know what's going to happen with the Broncos. It's the postseason and crazy things can happen. So we are planning on doing that. Watch out for the announcement. We'll have a ton of Broncos giveaways. We're going to have some special guests. We'll bring up a couple of you guys on stage to hang out with us, introduce yourselves, and seriously just sit down and have a fun time celebrating the season and celebrating you guys, because this is why we do it. Just being able to sit here and read all your guys' comments and hear from you guys is what keeps bringing us back week after week, year after year, even when the Broncos haven't been good, which has kind of been a staple for us lately. But as Jerry asks here, how is the bourbon? Well, I'll tell you about the bourbon. It is delicious. Breckenridge Distillery 5280 Broncos blend. This stuff is great. The orange bottle, blue bottle. They got ex-Broncos players that actually get involved in the making of the flavor of the whiskey. So great stuff, guys. Make sure you pick yourself up a bottle to enjoy during this next week's game. If you're not a whiskey person, don't worry. They got the Breckenridge Distillery Broncos vodka as well. So you guys are going to want to check that out. Also later this week, as Spotty just alluded to, you're going to want to listen to the Bourbon Broncos No BS pregame podcast. That's going to break down the first playoff game we're going to be able to do and just really get into the X's and O's of everything that we can expect and some of our predictions and everything like that. So that'll be coming out at the end of the week. Make sure you check that out. And then Sunday, game day, game starts at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. So we'll be live at 10 a.m. Mountain Time for the Tailgate Talk live show. Again, we're going to be doing our score prediction challenge, trying to give away a Broncos jersey to anybody who guesses the Broncos to win and gets the score correctly. So you are going to want to be there, because if you can win a jersey going into the offseason, I'm sure you're going to be a pretty happy Broncos fan. And I am just dying to give something away to a winner there. Also live at halftime as well. Don't forget about that for our live halftime hash show. And guys, it's going to be a great, fun game day. No matter what, we're going to be able to enjoy it and just see what happens. So here we go, guys. Lastly, make sure you like, share, and follow. It helps us out a ton. Helps out the algorithm, pushes out to more Broncos fans, and maybe even get some trolls in here too. We've been seeing a lot of those lately. So, great stuff.
Hey, for the record, I do want to mention we had the troll in the game, and then after the game in the Bengals game, and we win with halftime at Kansas City, he came back in and started rooting for the Broncos. So I don't know which way he was going. I think he was just trying to troll, but it worked out because next thing you know, he's a Broncos fan, and I'm okay with it.
I like it.
So likable, Jared. That's why.
Yeah, we just
clearly
just so cuddly.
Let's see. Let me go back to Paul's comment here. Sean was holding Bo back on rushing all season. Bo will be unleashed to rush. And I think, there was a bit of that this year, not letting Bo just rely on his feet, making him and forcing him to learn how to play inside the pocket. But, to me, it seems like Bo has really at least understood the concept of what it means to be a well-rounded quarterback. And that, that's really good to see. You're not going to see one of these young guys. I'm thinking back to, I don't know, I think Baker Mayfield is really good on his feet or whatever, but just these guys that couldn't ever learn how to play in the pocket. And specifically, there was a couple plays in the Bengals game where you saw there was plenty of coverage for him to step up into, but he panicked and rolled out, right? But then you saw in this last game, very similar situations where he had, because I was watching Tim Jenkins break down the Bo Nix passes. There were a couple situations where he could have, just like he did in the Bengals game, rolled out of the pocket and try to run up the field. But instead, he took that extra step back into the pocket. And, the learning that you're seeing from this guy week to week to week is so impressive. So, any thoughts on Bo's rushing as we go into this next week's game?
Yes, lots. So the first one is Sean Payton isn't holding him back from running. Sean Payton is developing his quarterback.
Right.
And he's
exactly.
developing him to read downfield a little bit longer. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know if was it the Saints game. What was the game that he was just throwing ducks and then he was throwing off his back foot, even if with a clean pocket. There was a lot. I think it was the Saints game, and he after that 2 games later, next game you see him throwing with his body weight. He's actually throwing it on his front foot. You see him learning these things. So I don't think Sean Payton's holding him back from running, saying don't run. What he's saying is don't run after your first read is covered. You need to look at the rest. There's a layers to this that you need to look at, which is why I love Bo, because every time you see him going back, he's looking at the tablet. He's a student of the game. He's trying to learn what he needs to do. And yeah, he has the capability of looking upfield. And you saw it even against Kansas City. First look not there, second look not there, third look not there. Now, granted, he had the time to do that. And then he's running, right? He realizes that the guys are covered, or the coverage isn't what he was expecting. I think that's another piece of it. You drop back, you're expecting cover 2, all of a sudden it's man. The play you called isn't going to work. You're going to start looking for some outs. And I think that's what Sean Payton's doing. Not so much telling him don't run the ball, but hey, don't run the ball when your first read's not there.
Right.
Yeah, and it's, this offense, especially with shot plays, right? Some of those are longer developing routes down the field. And it's a timing route just as much as any other route in this Sean Payton offense. And you've just got to hang in there and deliver it sometimes, even if there's a guy who's about an inch from your face. And you're right. I think he's doing a better job of that.
I'll bring back the Marvin Mims touchdown where he had it on his own, in his own end zone. Guy in his face delivers a dot to Marvin Mims on it. So it's not like he can't do it. He's just got to learn and develop into it. And I think he's doing a good job of it.
Yeah.
And this is where you're talking about what is the ceiling? What is the ceiling? I don't know.
There's also an air of complexity to Sean Payton's offenses that we know that, there's still about 14 words that Bo has to say and understand and things to do. He's still learning it all at the same time. Right. And I believe that there was a chunk of games there that he was making a point to learn all the little nuances and not taking off. I mean, and he's still going to get happy feet. He's a guy, no matter how many college games he started, he's still a guy who's trying to figure out the NFL game, which comes at a different speed. But he has done enough work in the mornings, in the gym, to come out and improve every single week. Now, we know the J curve there, Like, he's not going to continue to rise every single week. We know that there's either going to falter at times. And I believe we're going to see him falter at times in this Bills game against a team that is coached by a defensive-minded guy. But all at the same time, I still think that there are little things that he can take advantage of that the Bills may not necessarily be expecting.
And how many times did we talk to Jeff Legwold about it, guys? It's a situation where there's only so much you can expect a quarterback to quote unquote improve on things during a season. He said it a million times to us, right? When you're in the season and you're going week to week, you don't have time to think about, I've got to make sure that we're drilling on getting me to step up in the pocket more reliably. You've got to just game plan for the defense in front of you, and you don't have that much time. And so to see him improve at all game to game is pretty spectacular. And, I think we'll see a much better leap in that direction in the offseason. But like you said, Spotty, I expect him to have some struggles in this game with that, just because there's really only so much you can do about that in the course of a season.
And it's going to be cold.
Yeah.
And it's going to be cold. But it was cold in Denver last week, too. So,
Yeah, I mean, but cold in Buffalo is different.
Buffalo cold is different. Yeah, that cold, that lakeside cold is different than the Colorado cold. I'll tell you what.
Hey, Jared, they got one of your favorite comments in here.
I was about to say, don't bring it up.
Here we go. Here we go.
Here it goes. Here we
go. Travis, I'm going to get your comment here in a minute. But yes.
Even in this game against Kansas City, he didn't play a lot.
He didn't play a lot. That's my question. Is he's not playing a lot, but he's in there for snaps. I don't have the snaps pulled up right now, but I'd have to pull up. He's in there for the snaps because he is, and as it's brought back up, he is the best pass blocker in the group. Now, Estime is a rookie, and I'm sure that's something they're going to again work on in the offseason and try to get him up to speed. But let's be honest, even with the carries.
Jaleel tries real hard. He's just a little guy.
Yeah, he's a little guy. Leave him alone. He's just a little guy. No, but
he tries.
Do the same for me. You always make fun of me for my height, but for Jaleel, it's okay. Just be nice to him. Okay, fine.
Yeah, you know,
Yes.
Big E there, Kev Dan.
Yeah. Talk about no G.
No G. So, but even with Javante's carries, what was his average yards per carry?
Not good.
5.6. 5.6 yards per carry.
5.6.
One of those
carries
was for 10 yards.
One of those carries was for 10 yards. Yeah, he had 5 carries for 28 yards. So you can't sit here and say that he's not doing. Do you know what Jaleel McLaughlin's yards per carry were? 2.4.
It was like 2 point something, right?
So,
yeah.
Now, granted, he got 16 carries, but listen to me. Like, you can't sit here and say that if this was the other way around, right? If this was the other way around, Javonte had 2.4 yards per carry, and Jaleel gets a 10-yard break and only carried it a few times, we'd be sitting here saying, give the ball to Jaleel more. So you can't sit here and tell me that Javonte, he had one bad game where I think it was like 4 carries for -1 yard or something like that.
Yeah.
I forget what it was. But he had one bad game, and everyone is just dragging this man through the mud. He is still a good running back. He's still a good run blocker. He's still a good team player, and he's still able to get the yards that he needs to get in games. You saw it last week. You saw it against Cincinnati. You saw it against the Chargers. I brought it up every single week. You can't sit here and tell me that he's not still a good running back. But I agree to the question of why are we not using him more? That's more of my question, because we have all 3 of those guys back there. And yes, he's more dangerous in the pass game, because even then in the pass game, Jaleel McLaughlin had 2 catches. Javonte had 3 catches for 50 yards.
I'll say this, to that point, Jared. Yeah, Javonte is, I think, our most consistent pass catching back, and that's by far. And I can't really
throw when Estimate is in that game.
We don't. Yeah, we don't throw to him. But why aren't we throwing it to Javonte in space a little bit more? The amount of time and maybe it was just this Chiefs game, and because maybe the backups factor was at play a little bit, but it felt like Javonte was the only guy within 6 or 7 yards of himself every time he was getting the ball, and he was 3 to 4 yards down the field, just in a soft spot in the zone. And maybe it's a scheme thing. Maybe it was just the Chiefs backups I said, but it feels like if we schemed a few more of those looks to Javonte as well, that could really be. Maybe it's just that Marvin Mims is taking up those kind of plays right now.
Right. I know this doesn't answer any of this, but I just think you guys should check this out. On Marvin Mims' first touchdown, it was Estimate that was downfield that got him the last block to get him open.
Big block.
And it was
That's true.
What a Sean Payton play, by the way. My God, what a Sean Payton play. Like, he fakes the inside zone, fakes the reverse, and then pitches it and tosses it back to Mims. Everybody on the Chiefs defense was like, what the fuck? I haven't played since preseason. What the hell?
Dude, even Bo, man, that's a lot of core work. You got to fake here.
Yeah.
You got to
here.
And you got to turn back to this side. Like,
Yeah, he's been hitting the cable machine. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
A lot of the.
But to see the 3 or 4 Chiefs defensemen out there really bite off on that second fake was beautiful to see. When they're watching, they're like, here it is, and here's my block, and the ball is going the complete opposite direction. Like, they had no idea what was going on.
They did everything. They brought the tight end from the right side to run with the back towards the left side. Like, you have to follow all of these things, right? Because that's the order of operations when it comes to football. So, but also at the same time, that same play, if there's a guy in the backfield, he blows up everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That one guy could just completely derail that whole play.
I just hope, you know what? Because you guys know Sean, I think Sean thinks he's a genius all the time. You don't need to be a genius all the time. Sometimes you just need to be fundamental.
Yeah. Fair point.
I was going to bring up that video clip. It's going to take me too long to find it, so we'll move on.
Yeah, fine. I think we expressed it enough, and it was more excitement.
Don't worry, we'll reenact again.
Yeah. No, I got you. You want me to do the call to Blue 32?
All right, I've been meaning to bring this one up for a bit, Travis. I hope you're still here. So, Sean's arrogance, Vance's defense, is that concerning to you guys?
No.
Because with all due respect, Travis,
yes.
I disagree.
Down to the front.
Yes. I mean, Sean's arrogance always concerns me. But of course, I've started on this train, and I can't necessarily get off of it at this point because at times he proves me correct. I would say the defense a little less in this particular matchup. That I feel like if you truly have to have a team that can take advantage of the Broncos defense in the areas that we are weak, and having Riley Moss back it helps us out a whole lot because we can do a lot more man, and then we can do a lot more over the middle. It's a lot different. The Bills don't have Jerry Jeudy. The Bills don't have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Who else tore us up? Who tore us up on the Chargers? Ladd McConkey, and I feel like the Chargers barely tore us up either. Like when the Broncos definitely are in a bend don't break situation for the last 4 weeks, it seems like the Broncos have been doing a lot less. But you realize like the kickers for the teams that have actually beat us over the ones that are winning. So we're winning on fourth down, we're winning on third down, and that's kind of where it all matters.
Yeah. And I mean, their money, the Buffalo Bills money, not to take away from what we're going to talk about in the pregame podcast, but it's really in Josh Allen in the red zone, running it in or just making some crazy play to extend the play out. If we get like that bend don't break mentality that we have, we let him get down there, make him kick field goals, and we're in this game the entire game. It's going to be a strength on strength and then weakness on weakness, and their offense versus our defense, and then our offense versus their defense. And I think in right now where we are in the season, I think we could take advantage of that.
Yeah, 30 rushing touchdowns, 30 passing touchdowns. Just had to throw that out there.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean is like when they get in the red zone, it's all on Josh Allen's feet. He's not so much about what the run game. It's not so much about like what he could throw into the end zone. It's all about the run game with Cook, and then his feet being able to make something out of nothing. If you watched I know it was a terrible game to watch, but it was the Sunday night game against the 49ers in the snow, in the cold. It was all about Josh Allen using his feet. Like had nothing to do with him throwing it over the air. It was all about him just running the ball and making some crazy plays because he could extend the play. If we can stop him from extending the play, this game is ours.
For me,
that's top sacks in the league, man.
Yeah.
Get the pressure.
And I want Sean Payton to be arrogant in this game. I want Sean Payton to be saying, I kicked the NFC South's ass this year because it was full of coaches who I played against forever. And I want him to be thinking the same thing about Sean McDermott. I want him to be that guy this game. I want him to be channeling his most dickish, I know exactly what you want to do, and I know exactly how to beat it. And, we talked about it a little bit earlier on the Vance Joseph side, but he beat him with less last year. We didn't have Riley Moss in there last year. And, we didn't have Nick Bonito at this level last year. I think we might see Drew Sanders at inside linebacker a lot this game, because he can rush from the inside at times. Quan McMillan's going to be coming at him from the outside at times. Jonathan Cooper is another year older and wiser. John Franklin Myers coming alongside the other side of Zach Allen. It feels like a decent coaching matchup, if not good coaching matchup for this Broncos team across the board.
I mean, it boils down to this. What do we have to lose? Go out there, let Bo Nix throw it deep. We've seen the connection growing stronger and stronger week by week between him and Cortland Sutton. Get Vele more interactive. Mims, once he gets going, he is gone. It is incredibly tough to catch up to him and stop him. If they could connect Franklin there as well and just finally see that happen at the best possible moment, right? But what do we have to lose? And yeah, I'm okay with him being somewhat arrogant because, that means he knows what he's capable of. He knows what his team is capable of. And so why go out there and be conservative? There is absolutely nothing to lose. You're here. To an extent. I'm not saying be stupid. I'm not saying, first third down, just drop bombs, right? But You know, well,
Hey,
I mean,
look, there's probably one playoff game that I can think about in my memory that where I'm like, damn, that was bad, and that was the Tim Tebow led Broncos against the Patriots. Like we rode that high after the Pittsburgh game, and then into getting our
I'm
ass
still riding that high.
by the Patriots. Okay, so like if that's the like it can't go worse than that kind of situation, then I mean there's not anything to lose, even if you get beat by double digits.
Right. I mean, there's nothing to lose. I think you do. You let the offense go and have fun and have a good time. And the other cool thing is, and what I really like about all of this, and I've talked about culture over and over again. And as much as you want to, as much as confident as Sean Payton is, he's building a culture in Denver that is, we're taking this one game at a time. So they're not going to get super high off this Kansas City beating up on the backups. Yeah, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to say, hey, go up to Garrett Bowles, go up to Cortland Sutton and say, we did it for you guys, right? This is why we're here. And then you move on, you go to the next game and you go, hey, we have another team to play. And this is the team we're playing. This is what we're looking at. And that's how we've been so successful in these close games the entire time, because we're just focused on the one game. And right now, I don't even think they're focused on, hey, we're in the playoffs. They're focused on, we have a game this week. And we're going to do it like we have all season long. We're going to focus on the next game that we have this week. And then they're going to go out there and they're going to surprise. I'm hoping to surprise a lot of national analysts. They're not going to admit it ever. But there's going to be a lot of national analysts out here that are going to be like that are right now talking about how this game's a lock and it's already going to be, them versus Patrick Mahomes, or I think I heard one that was like the top 4 quarterbacks in the league are going to be in the AFC. Like it's like, get out of here with that crap. I think we have a good chance here.
Healthy Broncos team. Can we also just kind of drop that in there? What a time to have a healthy team.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's won playoffs. I mean, it's not the same as like basketball or hockey, but a healthy team really affects you. I mean, I just took a look at the Buffalo Bills. They're relatively healthy too, but at any point these things can change. But we've got all of the people who are where they should be. So there's not going to be a lot of excuses that are going to come from the Broncos.
Let's see. I want to pull up David's comment here because I love seeing comments like this. First off, you're a lifelong fan. Thank you so much. And I'm glad you're liking the show, man. We're going to keep doing this. So hope you keep coming back, man. Glad to see you here. Hey guys, you want to see what was that?
Plus a David. I mean, come on, man.
Another David. Let's get him in.
Yeah,
Well, speaking of Davids, you guys want to see a magic trick? So I'm going to piss off David real quickly.
Wait, which one?
What's important in this game? The David, not David's body,
okay.
but the main David. What really matters here is who wants it more. Okay, but I just had to say that because I needed to see David's reaction. I just had to say that.
No, I'm not gonna get it. No, not gonna entertain it. No.
Thank you, Kev. Question. I appreciate you.
Serious, honest question. Neil poses a good one here, and Jared, with your actual coaching experience and stuff, how does the cold really affect the ball through the air? I mean, what kind of things do you take into consideration there?
So very, very little from the quarterback standpoint. As long as he's got some sort of hand warmers, he'll be okay. It does suck, and the ball's a little heavier depending on I don't know if there's any snow, right? It really comes down to humidity, right? If there's no snow or rain in the forecast, it's not going to affect the quarterback too much as far as throwing the ball, other than the fact that it's going to affect the wide receivers because when it hits your hands, especially at the velocity that Bo throws it, sometimes it hurts. No matter how many years you've been doing this, how many calluses you have on those hands, it hurts. So I think the big part is, if anything, you're going to see a couple more soft throws. And not for nothing, for the most part, Bo Nix is throwing pretty soft throws because at least in the flats and in the short game, he's throwing a little touches to get him the ball. But that Marvin Mims strike 12 yards downfield, that's going to be a hard one to catch. The one where he catches it and takes it 90 yards or whatever for the touchdown. That's going to be a hard catch in the cold. But other than that, I don't think there's going to be too much unless there's some sort of humidity going on and rain. Then I think everything will be fine.
Sweet. I like it. I was curious. It was a good question. He's back. Brad Smith from across the sea, for some reason, chose a Bills to be his team, even though he's not from the area or America. All I'm going to say, okay. Brad, love you. First off,
respect it.
Respect it. Just make sure that if and I'm saying if the Broncos win, you make sure you come back here to take your lickings. But
David, no. David, stop
David,
it.
no.
Stop
David,
it.
No.
Down.
I'm just
Phrasing.
I didn't say it. I don't know why I'm
Are we
getting.
not doing that anymore?
What
Phrasing?
like
Are we
what
not?
did I? Yeah, are we still doing phrasing or?
We're children, David. We're children. So
Yeah.
Awesome, Brad. Seriously,
Oh
great to
man,
hear.
Brad. Now that I make sure you bring your best and most vigorous adult bedroom aid to throw on the field, Brad. Make sure that when it's time, you don't let us down.
as soon as he
believe in
said
you.
vigorous, I was
Vigorous.
like, whoa, where's this going? Vigorous.
Where's it going?
Leave it to David.
That is an adjective. Yes.
It's the one I use.
That is a word.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
pretty aggressive.
We all know how it goes down in Buffalo. Okay.
Oh,
All right, guys, we're going to start wrapping up. We got some really awesome closing thoughts here coming up soon, so do not go away. Really quickly, once again, big shout out to Breckenridge Distillery. 5280 blend, delicious stuff, guys. Seriously, drinking it right now. Used it to celebrate the – wait for it. There we go. Used it to celebrate the Broncos getting into the playoffs this last week, and as you can tell, I'm already almost halfway through the bottle, and I got to work tomorrow. So – but delicious stuff. Make sure you guys check that out and get yourself a bottle to enjoy during the game. Also, make sure you're checking out the first ever playoff pregame podcast later this week, and all of our game day shows on as normal, to include the 1 hour before kickoff, our tailgate talk show. We're still trying to give away a jersey as part of the score prediction challenge, so you guys are going to tune in to enter those score predictions. Let's see. Jared, over to you first, man.
Yeah, I think I'm going to rehash a little bit of what I said, but regardless of what happens in this game, we are not supposed to be here, according to literally anybody that you ask before the season, including us. This playoff berth is amazing. It's nice to have. We have a young team, and we're really working on moving our way back up into relevancy, and I think we did it in our first year of a rebuild. Right. And so I'm really happy with what this team has. I do think that we have a chance against Buffalo. I know there's a lot that don't. There's a lot of skeptics out there. And the way we played against Kansas City and the Chargers, the Cincinnati and the Chargers, I could see where they're coming from. But I'm riding this high. I'm loving the team. I'm loving what we have the capability of doing. And any given Sunday, it can change. And I think this is the playoff football now, and everyone's got to bring their A game. And there's a chance that we come out here and bring our A game and we beat Buffalo. So keep that hope up. We'll be here for another couple of years. It's great to be part of Orange Weekly after 8 years of not making the playoffs. And normally this is our fan appreciation show. It's super nice to not have to do the fan appreciation show the week after. I also did, if you guys didn't notice, just came back from golfing. I made a bunch of tee times for this week earlier in the season that I had to cancel. So I'm happy that I had to cancel those tee times, and I'll reschedule them for a couple weeks out now, so that I have a chance to.
That's smart.
That's
smart. Love it, man. Mr. David, what you got, bud?
It feels like a long way since Dead Inside, right, guys? Like,
Yeah.
it feels like
Yeah.
a long way. And, I want to look a little bit into the future again, too, just because we're talking so much about how we weren't expected to be here and how we weren't supposed to be this successful. And so, I think even by our own measures, we would admit the Broncos are at least ahead of schedule, right? And that leads you to just kind of think forward on what the trajectory of this franchise can be over the next 2, 3, 5 years, with a developing young quarterback who will keep the same offensive coach, who will continue to see other pieces come in around him. And it fills me with so much encouragement that the Broncos are back, not just for this year, right? It's not just a flash in the pan. Oh man, what if they had won an extra game last year? What a lucky turn, but I still don't see a long-term future for the franchise. Now we've got that. And we've got that, and we're ahead of schedule on where we're supposed to be in a rebuild. And there are teams like the Jets and the Browns who just never get to feel this way, ever. And, Broncos country, we can talk about how bad it's been for the last 10 years, and it has. But it's looking in a direction now that some other teams can only be envious of.
Yes. Spotty, what you got, bud?
You know what I thought was cool over the last couple of days, as I was combing through YouTubes and Instagram reels about people commenting and talking about the Broncos, I saw an abundance of Broncos alumni that were out protecting the Broncos. And I thought that was really cool because here I am as a fan jumping into people's comments and telling them that they're wrong and or stupid. But it was cool to see the Shannon Sharps, the Mark Schlereths, the Derek Wolfs, and of course Von Miller, being excited that the Broncos were making the playoffs. Like just like that, just like how we are fans, they're fans as well. So it's definitely nice to see that other people are as excited as we are to see this historical franchise to get back to the place that it was. And now that we have something, we've kind of got the monkey off our back, and we're coming into this game with nothing to lose, and I think that we're going to show again that the Broncos are going to deserve to be on the national stage of the next couple of years, and people are going to want to watch us. So no matter what happens, I'm going to be excited for this team, and excited for the future, and excited to watch all these guys grow.
Yeah, dude, exactly right. Like, this is now the expectation for the Broncos to make it to the playoffs every year. Anything short of making it to the playoffs is just unacceptable. That's the way it should be, and that's the way Broncos country, that's the standard the Broncos country holds the team to every year. And part of why we've been so mad. Yeah, the Jets, it's like, yeah, of course we're not in the playoffs. Like, duh. In fact, it's like when they start off the season and they're talking about the Jets being this big playoff team, that was more of a surprise to it's like, really? Oh yeah, that's right. They're the Jets. And our owner bases trades based off of Madden scores.
And 15-year-old children.
Yeah, and he's 77. So let's do that.
You named your kid
okay.
Brick.
I don't think I'm making that up. I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
I thought you said prick, and I thought that was going to be a little
also. But I like Ken's comment here. Whether or not you think the Broncos have a chance, I know me. I'm also just sick of hearing this disrespect. Right? We've been sitting through it for so long. And I think it's part of like the muscle memory at this point. Like, it's easy to diss the Broncos because we've just been bad for so long, but that's not the case anymore. And to be honest, short of winning a Super Bowl, they're going to find some way to spin it against the Broncos they're going to say the Broncos are a bad team, didn't deserve to be there, blah, 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 blah. We're going to have to deal with that, but we know. And you look at the Broncos at $58 million of cap space going into this offseason the way it sits right now. And teams or players from other teams that are going to be free agents are looking at this Broncos team that are young, they're hungry, they're just ready to go play. And man, maybe this is a destination that they were going to want to consider a little closer, compared to some other big teams that are going to pay him a little bit more, So it's the free agency is going to be really interesting to watch, and we'll talk about that as it gets closer as well. And Ken here as well. Yeah. What if this game was enough to just get them the confidence they needed after the last two, the two losses they had in a row there, and just got them feeling good again, like, hey, this is it. We made it. And let's go out there and do it. So Brad, you're always welcome here, man. Yeah.
I'll say this to that comment earlier about like all the national talking heads and, Broncos country, we always believe in the team every single week. We're probably not as bad as like, I don't know, the Cowboys or other, fan bases who think they're Super Bowl bound every single year. But I think it really comes down to if you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine. If you guys have ever watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Andrew Brogger is rest in peace. He passed away, but one of his big things was vindication. If you've ever watched the show, that's how I felt this week. That's how I felt making the playoffs this week. It's just the vindication of we are better than you think we are, and we are a team that's here to stay, and we're here a team that's back in relevancy, and we're going to be for the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah.
Look, it boils down to this: the Broncos are the underdogs, but they're used to being the underdogs this entire season. You look at the score predictions from a lot of just the talking heads before this last game, thinking the Chiefs backups are going to put up 20, 27, 28 points up against us. Like, do you not realize what this defense is capable of? And now they go out there the very next week and saying, oh yeah, well, that was just the backups and they're going to get blown out of the water by the Bills. It's like, guys, start giving these players some credit, right? They have deserved it. And that's why I can very confidently sit here and say, we may not win, but they're going to fight. You know, it's going to come down to the fourth quarter, one way or the other. And it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be really fun to watch. So, guys, man, this has been a fun time hanging out with you all, the viewers, and Jared, David, Spotty. You guys are great hosts as always. We're really excited for your podcast coming out here at the end of the week. And as this game gets closer, I know I'm just trying to live in the moment and be glad we are where we are. But at the same time, I'm incredibly looking forward to this game. So let's see what happens, guys. Look, I've been talking for over an hour. You guys have as well. I know I have nothing left to say other than end the show as we always do on a very strong.
Go
Broncos.
Take care, guys. We will see you soon.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sip and go, sip is right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, yeah, they know